I love how my tits look awful, but my arms look so skinny. It's like, how am I so fat just in my man area? Like, that's bullshit.
I just watched an interview with Kevin Hart. And who's the guy that owns the Dallas Mavericks? That rich guy? Mark Cuban. And they're both in those tubs. Like those.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
His balls.
His tits look amazing.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
I mean, he has no shame about just letting them just hang there. And I'm like,
well,
dude.
when you're a billionaire, you don't have to give a shit. Yeah. I'm poor. I have to be concerned about how small my arms look.
Yeah. Do you see that? Remember when Elon was like out and about and they were like, and he shared the picture? He's like, man, I got to work out or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He looked like Casper the Heavy Ghost.
Yeah.
It was pretty wild.
That guy's the master of social media, though.
Elon.
Oh, he's so good at it.
I think there's something about it. Like when you get to a certain value that you're like I think that's freedom. The fucks are gone.
Well, yeah. When you're a billionaire, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
There's nothing.
When the international world is relying on you to get to space. I think you have a little bit of.
Well, how really rely on them?
How did we get there, though? We had like a whole space program. Allegedly, we were the first ones to the moon.
First of all, thank you. I'll tell you how. The government pretty much sucks at everything.
Yeah,
I'm very mad at the government right now because I just got my tax bill from last year, and it is aggressive.
Yeah, you have to write everything off.
There's certain things
every time I breathe, it costs me 50 cents.
What did they whack you on?
I got,
or should we not say it because the IRS might look at this?
First of all,
the 87,000 new tax people they got.
Yeah,
they're gonna watch podcasts and find some shit.
So they won't let me get on Stripe yet.
It's like been a weird 2.5 years with COVID because if you shut down your business, the government will just give you money.
Yeah.
Little do you know they want like half of it back a year later.
Yeah.
Which they never told you.
Yeah, I thought it was
they tried to do that. I got unemployment because I lived in New York City in the pandemic, and they reached out and they're like, "Hey, we just got to verify that you deserve this unemployment." And I was like, "You already gave it to me." Like, what?
Did you ever get yours? I know.
No, I never got it.
Yeah,
I tried for 18 months to get it, and they wouldn't give it. Yeah, this is an exact.
That's because I saw this podcast, and they're like, "There's no way he does this."
We weren't doing it at the time.
You weren't allowed to be around people.
The exact quote from the state rep that I talked to was, "I don't know, man. Everything's fucked."
Yeah, nice.
Like, all right.
At least you got somebody on the phone in New York City. Like you called and they were just busy, and then their advice was just keep trying. Okay.
Does that sound insane to you?
Yeah. Well, the thing that bugged me was that unemployment was an all-time high. And then when you called them, they're like, we just don't have enough people to work these phone calls. I'm like, here's a great idea. How about you hire some of the fucking people calling? That would help, wouldn't it?
Well, most people now are home. Like, that's how they're doing it. Their call centers are at home. But you call up the gas company, that's where they are. These people could do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you hear kids and like dogs barking in the background.
Dude,
like, at your house.
Yeah.
I heard like somebody's mowing their lawn. I was like, man, what the fuck?
Put the kids and the dog outside.
I don't. I'm having. It's anybody who's ever listened to this realizes that I'm having really hard time trying to understand the last fucking 2.5 years to be like, what is going on?
We just got epically
get yourself a sword
bent over by the government, and then they're like, our bad.
Yeah,
that's all they did. They're like, hey, sorry, we were super wrong on a lot of stuff, but we won't admit it. We'll just sorry about your restaurant and your dreams.
Yeah,
it was. I think the statistic is that 70% of restaurants in LA went out of business.
Mm-hmm. Like an insane amount.
70.
Just drive around here. The amount of stuff that probably went out of business.
We were trying.
Scranton looks out of business.
It has looked that way.
Yeah.
The old adage is that if everyone woke up tomorrow and the streets are lined in horse shit, everyone would buy bigger boots.
Yeah, we wouldn't,
because we're so apathetic to it.
We just hate everything. I've never felt a town just be so just like, fuck it.
Yeah, just collectively as a group, the whole town.
Hey, your kid's on fire.
He'll roll around.
Whatever.
Fine.
All right, were you going to tell your story about solving crimes?
Oh, okay.
We just went on like 87 tangents in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, this is what it's like. You know what it is?
Yeah.
It's like a conversation on meth, and none of us do it.
No,
yeah,
it's just our brains.
None of us at this table.
Did you get that reaction?
You don't yawn on meth.
Yeah. No. He was just getting ready for something else.
All right, tell your story. Well, once the podcast is over, Dan.
So, my wife is at work downtown at our business.
Nice.
And on a Sunday morning, we don't normally work on Sundays. It's kind of a get stuff done day. And she's like, I need you to come into work, look at the security cameras. a prostitute just came down out of the apartments that are above our business and didn't know where she was.
Nice.
Didn't know what was going on. Asked to use the phone to call somebody. They were arguing about money. And then she hung up on this guy. The guy calls back. And the woman had left at this point. So he's like yelling at my wife. So I'm like, this is great. I'm looking at the security cameras. So I start looking through the cameras from that morning to kind of see what she looked like.
Just solve it.
Was she hot? Was she a hot prostitute?
No,
Scranton doesn't have
No.
prostitutes. There's
I
gotta
gotta be one.
I have a
or two
picture.
out
You wanna
there
see?
somewhere.
Come on.
I do
One or
have a
two
picture.
somewhere.
What are you doing if you're a hot prostitute in Scranton?
Right.
I don't think
Commute to a better place.
I think if I was a hot prostitute in Scranton, I wouldn't be walking the streets. I'd
Yeah.
have some class. I'd have like I read a story about this.
Just so you can take Uber Blacks everywhere.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
even
okay.
Uber Black here.
There you go.
Oh man, she shouldn't even.
You can kind of get an idea. Very little rough around the edges. So I'm looking at the cameras.
Not a good choice for a half.
I'm looking
shirt
at the
on that one.
cameras. Like 4 a.m, she like snuck in behind somebody who was coming into the building. Goes up the elevator. I'm like, what in the world? Like she just snuck in. So then I'm like, well, I want to know, did she come back down the elevator? Like whose apartment was she in? Because my wife and I, like, we're talking about like, who do you think it is? Because we know a lot of the residents live in the building. I'm like, who do you think it is? I was like, I have a pretty
These
good
are the
idea.
equivalent of those assholes who look through their blinds
Yeah,
every fucking
right,
day in
yeah.
the neighborhood.
So I go to look
But if you,
at
what's
like,
the point of having security cameras if you're not going to watch them?
I mean, true.
Right. So I'm going through the security cameras and I see she doesn't come down the elevator. She comes from like the back hallway. So I go to that security camera. She comes out of the like cleaning closet.
She
for the
slept in
building.
the closet?
She slept in the closet. So I'm like, well, when did she go down there?
Speaking of R. Kelly,
Yeah. So
He was trapped in there.
When
though.
did
He
she go
didn't
down
see
there?
her
And I noticed she's wearing a pair of sandals, like Birkenstock, like whatever, and carrying her shoes that she was wearing the night before. So at 4, she goes up the elevator. 5 comes down the elevator, goes to the mail room, rifles through all these people's packages, goes down to the basement, opens them all up, puts on the Birkenstocks, passes out in the cleaning supply closet, leaves the next morning, doesn't know where she was.
Nice.
Apparently, she was partying at some club over like in West Side, the Lounge
that's not really a club.
or whatever. I don't know.
I was like, Scranton
It's
doesn't
like a
have
seedy
clubs.
bar.
It's seedy.
Okay.
Yeah, we specialize
It made
in
a lot of
just
sense.
sad bars.
Made a lot of
That's it.
sense. And apparently the guy she was with got mad and just left her there. And so she wandered to our building.
But she stole stuff
She stole. It's a federal crime.
because it's in the mail.
Well, I don't know, because did she steal Amazon packages?
I believe so.
Yeah.
She did steal a Amazon package and she stole something else that was shipped from out of state, which makes it
Yeah.
a federal mail crime.
Because apparently there's 2 different laws for Amazon packages and
What?
postal packages.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because Amazon's like a separate company, so it doesn't fall under the same rules as the post office.
So is that the same for like FedEx and?
No, because they have like a weird, I don't know how it works, but Amazon, like you can't strictly like to get your, like that's why they have to leave their packages on your porch or something like that. They can't put it in your mailbox because they're not part of the postal service.
Oh, so
they
it's like
fall
you
under-
can't touch this.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. Like it, yeah. It's
I didn't
wild.
know that.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Do you know that, Dan?
So it's still a crime,
But that
obviously.
probably works
either
with
way.
like FedEx and UPS then too. Like
It's the same vibe.
they're not the postal service; they're their own delivery service.
So in essence, like your mailbox is like federal property.
Yeah, in essence, yeah. Yeah.
So when I was a kid and I was hitting mailboxes with
Yeah,
baseball
it's
bats.
technically a
Oh, yeah,
federal
yeah,
crime.
yeah.
Technically.
You know, we talk a lot about conspiracy theories and gross bodily functions, but this is a really educational podcast.
Just
Yeah, I didn't
dropping
know.
knowledge.
Yeah.
That's why nobody steals your mail, but they steal like packages off your porch and shit because
they can.
they can.
Oh.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna call the cops and they're like, nah. You know what I mean? Like, we don't care.
Did you ever go to a party and like just for fun, once everybody's had a few drinks or, you know, whatever substances Dan likes to take, look at each other's Amazon order, like your Amazon orders over
You go
the
through
past
people's.
weeks?
I think that's too.
Why?
It's too personal.
Hilarious.
Wait, you're like
Oh, it's,
openly
like, funny.
showing each other?
Oh yeah,
shit?
it's hilarious.
No, I'm not showing
Just
you
the
that.
random crap that people buy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
But how
think?
weird did it get? Or it was
It
like
got
boring?
real weird,
Yeah.
but it was hilarious.
Do you think that that's a downfall of fucking Western civilization? Is that like we have like I can have a dildo tomorrow?
Yeah.
From somewhere, and it's just like there's
100%.
too much. There's
much
too
access.
much bullshit at
Yeah.
our disposal.
I just like I am enthused by the idea of like the poor Amazon guy just knowing that like
he
probably
shakes the box.
1 in 5 packages he's delivering is just a gigantic sex toy, or like something like that.
It's like, oh, this must be a blow up one.
This looks like a box of water, and this is definitely a dildo.
Definitely. Nothing else is shaped that way.
Why do you constantly order posters? Those aren't posters.
Yeah. All right. So Dan and I, Zach's a good friend of mine. I love Zach. I met Zach many, many years ago. Zach Hammond, comedian extraordinaire, and he did a live taping of his new album at Carl Hall.
Yep.
And I was him and I, full disclosure, we had a little bit of weed, and we went and we were freaking the fuck out for the beginning of it because I'm like, man, this room's like
tiny.
Yeah, and I don't know if these are our people. Like, I don't know if these people are gonna laugh. Like, we were listening to a couple conversations that were really out there. Do you remember those?
There was like the younger kid with his mom. It was like his birthday, and they were out.
Oh, it was his birthday. Yeah.
How young?
Maybe 21. Like, it was weird.
I feel like
I didn't know if you meant like
no, there
7.
was like a young. Was he 21?
I think he was like
pretty
16.
young. Yeah,
You think so?
Yeah.
because I think I made them leave. They didn't stay for the whole show.
No, you're talking about the front row.
Yeah.
Those front row people. That was not. You were not on brand
I
for
was
them.
not on brand. For
Which I was like, man, why'd they walk out of that? That was fucking funny.
Wait, what were you saying?
I don't even
I forget
remember,
exactly
dude. I
what
was
it
just
was.
going hard because
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, these are Zach's people. I can say whatever the fuck I want because nobody's gonna
You
get
also
offended."
pointed out that the room was split left and
Yeah,
right
yeah,
side because you're
yeah.
like, I'm just going to stay over here now.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
And it was mostly Dan and I being like, so,
Yeah,
but you got off stage. I'm like, dude, he was fucking great.
yeah.
He was
And I was
really
just working
good.
on new shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there was no fear. You held on to it, and it was like whatever discomfort people felt. It was
I
like,
don't
just
give a
go with it.
fuck.
Well, I think that's a lost on stage philosophy lately.
I think a lot of comics are embracing it more now, but for a little while they were because I lived in New York for 7 years.
What was
and
the comedy scene like there?
When I first
think
got there-
I think it regressed.
It did. I don't think it's the top echelon of comedy anymore, and that's kind of why I came back. So it's just like I didn't feel like I was growing as a comic anymore because I was getting yelled at by white women all the time.
They're the
Like,
worst.
every show.
What do you mean?
Because even if the thing is like there's sometimes the people forget that we have to figure this shit out somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I have to say it out loud. It's probably sometimes going to be bad. And I have to figure it out. And you're going to hear me say some wild shit until I figure it out. And then, but they don't expect that. They think that you already thought out sometimes I don't know what's offensive until somebody's like, hey, I got offended by that. And I was like, oh, didn't even see that aspect of it. But I thought it was funny. So I have to figure out how to make it like acceptable for everybody.
Yeah, but if like 95% of the room is digging it.
Yeah,
Do you
but that
change it?
5% is very loud. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, so that's a question I've always thought about because I've over the last 2.5 years, I've realized that like comedians are now the new truth tellers.
Well, we always were.
We forgot about it for a bit.
Well, because it went towards this mainstream comedy went towards like this, like, oh, let's like, embrace everybody and not piss anybody off. And there was like a long time of that.
Like the Dane Cook era.
No, Dane was a wild man.
Yeah, he got out there.
Yeah, he
Oh,
got
was he?
out there. But we went through like, Seinfeld, all these guys that were safe.
okay.
And then you had Seinfeld the show. And then like, you had the embrace of all these comics that were safe. But then you have Burr, and then you have like Jim Jeffries. You have these other comics that are still, towing the line. So it's out there, but the people were trying to get rid of it. So that's the hard part is that you
So
have
I think,
to.
but that was around the same time though of like Patrice O'Neill.
Well, I mean Patrice
he's
dying
the
is probably the
master.
worst thing that ever happened to comedy.
I don't think I could disagree with you.
Yeah, because he was in New York and he was calling people out. So you hear stories about people who would be on stage talking whack shit, and Patrice would call them out. There is none of that in New York anymore. Like now you get called out like, hey, that joke's probably offensive. And it's like, but there's truth and funny in it. And they go, well, you can't say that here. There's a lot of clubs that won't let you say certain shit.
Like what?
They censor you. The clubs will censor. I mean, that is.
It's a
you know what
thing.
I'm saying? Is like if you
Yeah.
say you can't say these things, that's
It's censorship, but you also
because they're the gatekeepers to you getting in front
there's
of
a
a crowd.
lot of those gatekeepers. So it's like I'm not going to name clubs specifically.
No, I'm not
'cause
asking
they'll
you
get me in
to.
trouble, but
Yeah.
there's like there's certain bookers that will not book you if you speak a certain way or if you speak especially if you're trashing women. You know what I mean? Like,
You can't shit on women anymore?
It's
But
hard
women
to
can shit all over you.
Women can shit on men all day. All day. You could trash white men to their face if you want. That's perfectly acceptable. But there's certain groups, like, I mean, if you really pay attention, there's certain things, like, I mean, that Andrew Tate guy got canceled. And then it depends on which side, because it's very interesting, and I know this is a long way to go about it, but it'll
We
explain
have all
my
the
point,
time in the world, brother.
is that if you notice that everything's segmented now, so there's left and right, and the news is so catered to whatever side you're on, right? And the internet's the same way. So I have friends that I'll talk to that are very left, and friends I talk to that are very right, and you notice that they're getting shown two completely different internets. So I don't know how it happened, but if you keep liking certain shit,
Algorithms,
the internet
man.
will just show you that.
Yeah.
So my friend saw all the news about Andrew Tate, like beating women, he's misogynistic, all this other stuff. And I'm seeing how he's just motivational to dudes. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's like, go to the gym, get your shit together, like all this other stuff. And I'm like, how is that bad? And she goes, well, he's misogynistic. And I go, how? And then she would send me stuff, and I'd be like, oh, well, look at this. And you're like, which one's the truth? But they're burying the other side. So that's how the internet works. I know Andrew Tate is a broad example, but if you really pay attention, and if you look at Rogan, everybody thinks he's right. He's actually more left if you really pay attention to his podcast. But the thing is they're taking it in small clips out of context and putting them out to the masses. So now there's a big segment of the population that thinks he's evil and steering everybody the wrong way, which is not true if you listen to the whole podcast.
Well, it's interesting because the two examples you just gave, and like we talked about Andrew Tate last week.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of think part of it's an act. I don't think it's all real. I think it's kind of.
Yeah, but he admits it.
Yeah, he admits it.
But like the two examples you even just gave, like Joe Rogan and Andrew Tate, like what do those two guys have in common? They're very much alpha males who are encouraging men to be better men.
Right.
And we can't have that right now.
Yep.
You can't, in society, you can't have, you got to have dumbed down weak men in order for the powers that be to do like all the COVID stuff
all
they did.
of the stuff.
And if you go to the gym, that's toxic masculinity. If you
Is that what they put? Is that what they considered going?
Oh, yeah.
That's
My
toxic.
whole act would be considered toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Like it's
you
just
animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have like a decent sized dick. Yeah.
According to the internet, it's above average. So
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you can't count that quarter inch.
I'll take whatever I can.
I'm Irish, man. I know how,
Yeah.
It curves, it makes it shorter.
Isn't that Peroni? No, that's when you break it. So I was, we talked about last week about Andrew Tate and there's this guy named Pat Bet David. I don't know if you ever heard of him, Patrick Bet David. He has the thing called the PBD podcast.
Yeah.
And he interviews, like, he's been on Rogan before, like he has his own thing going, but he like within like 3 days he had Andrew Tate on.
Yeah.
And it was a 4-hour.
It was 5.
Was it 5?
Yeah. Almost.
So I sent it to him. I'm like, dude, watch. Cause like even up to hour 3, I'm still like, I still don't see where he's wrong.
Yeah. He's making solid points.
So do you think, and he explains his perspective instead of it being like, you know, hey.
But he has to sensationalize it.
Right.
But he says that. He goes, instead of me saying it this way, instead of me saying that like biologically men, you can't deny that they're stronger than women. He goes, I'll just say women are weak. Mm-hmm. He goes, and I know that pisses people off. He's like, but I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And he is kind of a provocateur.
But that's how you get views.
Correct.
And you can't, the left is like mad. And I hate to separate it left and right because it's just opinions.
I can't think of a better word.
But it's, if you
the
look
crazy
at it,
people,
they're everything's sensationalized.
Yeah.
So if you're mad at Andrew Tate for doing that, why are we not also mad at CNN and all these news media outlets for lying too? Because you can't. That's my thing. Is it's like, all right, if you're going to ban this guy, then why isn't that the same across the board? Why is it not when women go on? Remember that hashtag Kill All Men?
No.
You don't remember that? It was during the height of the Me Too, right when Me Too started.
So here's before you continue with Kill All Men.
Yeah.
How does that get allowed to perpetuate?
Because nobody
Isn't that crazy?
cares.
Because that violates terms and services of these platforms.
According to not that. You can, if you put hashtag kill all women, your account would be banned like immediately.
Oh, yeah.
But kill all men
Hashtag
is
kill all
all.
men was shared 170 million times.
No, it wasn't. Was it really?
Yeah. It was like a big thing.
So what were people saying?
It was just like the men are useless, they're shit, they're garbage, or that we should kill them all, like that type of stuff. Because it was during the height of like the Harvey Weinstein stuff when everybody was getting outed. And then they were like, well, we just don't need men anymore. We should kill all men. And then it took this thing where it's like hashtag kill all men. And then when men are like, what the fuck? I'm a good dude. And they're like, well, it's a generalization. And it's like, well, when I say all women are crazy, you get pissed, but that's a generalization. So it's like, there's two separate rules that everything's being followed right now.
Yeah.
So it's tough. If you're, and as a touring comic, you notice that in the cities, it tends to be more liberal. So people will get mad at stuff you say. But then if you go out into like towns like Scranton or like the rural, like outside, they want to hear the wild shit still, because they haven't been indoctrinated. I was trying to go for a Scrabble word there, and it wasn't getting me. But they're brainwashed by it because you're surrounded by everybody that thinks the same way
in
you
your
do.
little bubble.
Yeah. So it's like you don't know that there's a different way.
I think the dangerous thing that people don't recognize or get is that if you, no matter what bubble it is, you gotta look outside of it, or else you're not going to get the full spectrum of what life is.
Well, you're not, because both sides have parts of it are right.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But the right part's in the middle, which most of the country is in the middle. Well,
I'm happy you talked over me over that.
It's funny because I was trying this new bit about like, well, Andrew Tate had some good opinions, but he also had some bad opinions. And then I was like, I wonder if somebody was listening to Hitler talk, and he's like, he's making some good points. And then he starts saying some wild shit. He's like, fuck. Like, yeah. So
that's
it's just like,
I mean, dude,
because he convinced a lot of people.
There was a whole bunch of Germans who were over there like,
a lot of people that were on board.
So I always think about stuff like that, like the shit we're going through now. Where we're like, oh, that person's crazy. Oh, that person's got some good. Do you think there were people in Germany at the time going like, some of these ideas are good.
Yeah.
I don't know, but can I live with the Jew thing?
Right, because I'm sure,
like my taxes went down. Can I live? That's how people think, though, as crazy as that sounds.
Well, I mean, it's crazy, but he didn't open with, listen, we got to get rid of all these Jews. You know what I mean? Like, and then like everybody was like, yeah. You know what I mean? He had to convince them over somehow. You know what I mean? Like, and you got to think about that. Like, our government is kind of the same way. They're like, hey, COVID is bad. And then we're all like, yeah, it's pretty bad. And then after a while, we're like, actually, it's not that bad. You know what I mean? And then the government's like, no, it's still pretty bad. And you're like, no. You know what I mean? It's just like, you can't just buy into what they're selling you. It's just, they don't want us to think for ourselves anymore. That's the issue.
I mean, are you seeing that?
The unintended consequences of this, though, are like you said, everything over the past 2.5 years, like COVID's really bad. Well, it's not, though.
Yeah.
Take the vaccines. They work. You won't spread it. You won't. People are still dying and spreading this thing.
Well,
wear your masks. Wear 2 masks, actually.
Yeah.
Masks
Wear 3.
don't work. And it's like all this craziness. What's going to happen when something really bad does come?
We're
Because people like me are going to be like, nah, they're lying again. I'm not doing it. And then I'll be like zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, but we all grew up reading The Boy Who Cried Wolf.
Right.
Like, we know where this goes.
Yeah.
We're not handicapped in understanding that.
Yeah.
So, okay, that was always like my biggest question during all of this. I'm like, these are supposedly smart people, upper echelon, they get experts. And it's like, if you can't see the causality of what this, like if you don't have the foresight to see where this leads to. Yeah, like I remember when they shut down, and I'm pretty relatively good friends with somebody who works over at the Scranton School District in the psychology department. And I remember it was in like the first, after 15 days went away, and it was like indefinitely. We don't know when we're going to flatten this curve.
Yeah, no idea.
I called and said, I said, look, this needs to stop now. And here's why. I think the damage that is going to happen to children is going to far outweigh what happens with COVID.
Yeah. Actually, the damage to everybody. Because think about it.
Well, I was more worried about the kids.
Yeah,
because I'm like, people our age are just like, yeah, we get fucked over all the time.
Yeah,
we
figure it out.
Yeah, we'll get
and mentally,
Gen X.
Yeah, we're like finished developing, but you just took 2 years from these kids of just being at home with their parents. And now you're shoving them back into schools to socialize again after they probably forgot how. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a instrumental part of becoming a kid or living your kid life, and you just took that away.
Well, the discipline and the routine of school, and socializing with other people and learning and stretching your brain, if that just goes away for 2 years during the developmental stages, that kid's set back.
Yeah, and I promise you, 2 weeks into it, every parent was like, "I don't fucking give a fuck, Billy.
Yeah.
Like, do whatever if you don't go to school, don't open the Chromebook. I don't care."
Give a
My
shit.
kid sat in front of his computer and he basically did 8 months of art. He just sat at the desk and we're like, all right, we got to sit there because I got to see you. And just he would draw and draw and draw all day long.
And did they really how well did they learn? You know what I mean?
Not at all. It was the worst. I mean,
But as one of the guys in here who doesn't have you don't have a kid, right?
No, I don't.
Okay, so these two have kids.
Yeah.
So his are 6 and 8.
7 and 9.
I always fuck this up. And one just started college and the other one's a junior.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So what was it like for them?
Oh, it was awful.
They hated it.
Like my daughter. So when this all happened, she would have been 13. 14.
Okay, you didn't do well in public school. This is not going to work out well.
I'm trying to remember how long ago it was. And I mean, when you take a 13 through 15-year-old girl out of her routine, that's already the worst 2 years of a girl's growing up. Like, it's just the hormones are a mess. They're trying to figure life out. They're slamming doors. Like, they're already a mess. Now you take them away from their friends. Everything will kill you. You can't go to school. And it's like, the effects it has, it's just unbelievable. My son, though, like, he basically lost the last 3 years. He hasn't had a normal year of school since his freshman year. So he's going off to college.
So he missed his senior year, all that, the best
Junior,
part
senior year,
of
yeah.
high school.
Like, so they kind of got the senior year back a little bit, but like didn't learn anything because as soon as they were kind of back in school full swing, basically got through what he could and then went cyber as soon as basketball season ended so he could work a little bit. I mean, didn't learn anything. Grades, all the kids, grades dropped. They're not learning the developmental, social, all of the above. But now you have a set of kids that, number one, they were told to be scared of everything.
Yep.
Do what you're told. Now, because these kids are all over the internet, wait, everything was a lie? I don't know what to think anymore.
But how many are realizing it's a lie? That's also the hard. Because now you took them from out of the situation where maybe they talk to people with different opinions than them.
Yeah.
Or meet people from different places. Now you're forced to be online.
Yeah.
Where all of your friends have the same opinion. And you didn't know that other opinions exist. And now you're out in the world.
Until Andrew Tate comes along.
Well, yeah, but
and then you got to get rid of him.
Yeah. Now you
I will say, like, I mean, and you just kind of look at it. Like, what's the old phrase? It's like,
don't eat yellow snow.
Yes, that one. But like, if you're not a liberal when you're young, you don't have a heart. If you're not more conservative when you're older, you don't have a brain.
Yeah.
So typically people on the younger spectrum of things tend to be more liberal, more left leaning, more Democrat Party.
Yeah.
I think the past 2.5 years was horrific for the Democrat Party. I mean, just they shut everything down. Oh, it was all a lie. Nothing worked. Like, oh, my dad got fired because he didn't want to take a vaccine. And then all of a sudden these kids are hitting 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And it's like, I can vote. I don't want to vote for the people that tried to ruin my life.
Fuck my dad over.
Yeah. So it's like the unintended consequences are,
well,
I think it's going to be very different than what people think it is.
You would think one of the political parties would realize that if one of them just made some sense.
Right. Right.
They would win in a landslide.
Yep.
But both sides are a joke now because Trump was, and it comes to find, I'm not.
Be careful, Paul.
I'm not a Trump fan. I'm not a Trump fan, but over time you go back and you go, no, this dude was trying to do some shit.
Yeah.
Even though if he just stayed off Twitter,
right,
he would have been fine.
Right.
And then but the thing is yeah, he was a dick. So
we basically had Andrew Tate as president.
Yeah. So this guy was a dick. And then the Democrats were just handed the keys to the kingdom. Yeah. And then they gave us fucking Biden.
Yeah.
And now it's a shit show.
Exactly.
And then now where do you go?
Yeah.
Because now the way our stupid political system is set up, you either have that guy or that guy.
Yep.
So then what are we going to get? Trump back? And then it's going to be a shit show again. You know what I mean? Then we're going to be even more fucked.
I think at this point it's time just to finish tearing this whole thing down.
Well, what's the option? Yeah. How do we go back?
July 2nd, 1776.
Yeah.
You can't rebuild this.
Yeah.
Let's just tear it down and start.
Because I mean, at the end of the day,
does America need a king?
No, absolutely fucking not. Especially,
I think that's what Trump wanted.
especially not. So I was considered non-essential at the beginning of this.
Yeah,
And
me too.
Okay, we can talk about that. And I also had taken a really high dose of mushrooms for the first time in my life a couple
Nice.
weeks before.
Nice.
And because I was literally ready to take a bridge. This was before the lockdown. Like just too much shit happened, and I just couldn't. I didn't have the capability or the knowledge to figure it out. So I took this high dose of mushrooms, which I've described it before. I'll describe it to you. It's for the first time, blindfolded with a gravity blanket on a couch in Old Forge, listening to a broken Spotify playlist. Probably not the best way to
The
do it.
scariest part of that is that you did it in Old Forge.
I mean, gravity
that's the scariest
blanket is the way to go. I highly recommend.
At the time, it was, and then through it, I'm like, why are spirits on me?
Yeah.
So the best way I can describe it is, it was like a 600,000 mile skydive without a parachute while going through 6 years of intense psychotherapy in 5 hours, because I didn't want to trip. I wanted to fix it.
Yeah,
That's why I blindfolded.
Yeah.
That's why I did all of that. And it really, like, for 3 days I was fucked. Then I started to realize, certain truths about life and myself and other people. And I started to think to myself, like, why did I hate? Because I was a hardcore pussy hat wearing liberal. And I started to think to myself, like, I have so much hate. Like, who am I mad at? Why am I mad at them? And then because I've been active politically my whole life, one day I was like, I kind of want to watch Trump speeches, like from the beginning to the end,
instead of the parts that
they were showing me. And I started off at the Republican primary debates in 2016.
That would have been 20.
Yeah, it was 2016, right? So, and it was him against like fucking Marco Rubio. And when he said that fucking Ted Cruz's dad killed Kennedy.
He said he was the Zodiac killer.
He said, the Zodiac killer. That's what it was, right?
which is a joke.
It is.
It's funny.
But I went through
or is it true?
and I said, okay, I have to take. And in the midst of that, I heard a podcast from NPR.
Nice.
Where it was called Rich White Parents or something like that. And they went and interviewed this school in New York City, like an inner city minority school where they had a redistrict and all these white parents came in and basically took over.
Yeah.
Right. And they had a fundraiser at the French consulate to have a French class in the schools to raise money for that. And this woman walked up to talk to this Hispanic woman who fucking 30 grand a year, maybe.
Yeah.
Like she cleaned houses and stuff. Really proud, smart woman.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman started talking to her. She's like, you've never been to, like, you got to go to France. Like, you have to, like, this isn't in the cards for this woman. But she was polite. She listened. And what I realized, I'm like, she talks just like fucking Trump.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, maybe this is how these people talk. Mm-hmm. This is how these broken, fragmented thoughts that they eventually 7 hours later come back to the original point that they were talking about. And that's when I started listening. And the thing that got me was, remember Good People on Both Sides in Richmond?
Yeah.
If you listen to it 90 seconds before, he absolutely condemns white supremacy.
Right.
And then 90 seconds after that, he absolutely condemns white supremacy.
Yep.
And I'm like, wait a second. What else did they say that he is that he isn't?
Yep.
And that's when I started to start paying attention to stuff like that. And it's not like I was like, fuck yeah, Trump. I started to realize, like, he's the only guy that I can think of who can actually put sand in the machine and destroy it.
Yep. But I mean, to what? At this point,
I am so fucking terrified about where it's going.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, do it
because
now.
his opportunity was when he was in office and he couldn't get out of the way.
So
but if we get him back again, I think that we're just going to implode on ourselves.
I don't know.
I do.
I'm just mad that he never told us who really killed JFK.
Well, yeah.
And the aliens. I want to know
we
about
got the aliens finally.
It was kind of
drips and drabs.
But the thing is like, it's too late. I don't know how we fix it because now we're all siloed so much for exactly.
You're right.
And I know
right.
we started with the censorship thing. That's what you pay attention to, is that anything that goes against the current narrative is censored. It's plain and simple. You can't say so much stuff. TikTok will take you down. Instagram will take you down. YouTube will deplatform you. And it's not fair to all these people who are just trying to be like, hey, what the fuck's going on? And they're having like real conversations.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, you can't, because you can't say white trash on the internet anymore.
Why can't you say white trash?
Redneck. You can't say.
You can't say redneck?
There's so much stuff you can't say. Yeah.
Like type it or say it.
Say it or type it. So Tic Tac,
Redneck.
yeah, it'll be gone. White trash, can't say it. Even if it's in a joke.
Then
Like
how
I've
am I
known a
going to
lot of
talk
people.
about my mom's entire family?
I don't know. You have to find a new creative way to say they're trash people. I don't know, but you can't say it because they will take you down. So it's just like, but that's the current thing is that I don't know if you saw the interview with Zuckerberg when he was on Rogan, where he admitted the government met with him,
The FBI.
to certain people,
Yeah.
to silence certain people. That shouldn't be allowed. That shouldn't be allowed.
But when one side is in charge of everything top to bottom.
Well, that's also my argument. Like Joe Biden recently was like, I'll ban assault rifles after the midterms if we win the midterms. And it's like, why? You have control of the White House,
the Senate,
right.
executive.
Just fucking do it now. And it's just like, that's the thing is like, it's so much pandering to win votes to keep in
That's
power.
all it is.
And you're not getting anything done. How do you have full control of all three things and not get anything done?
Because it won't benefit them in the future.
That's exactly why. And then that's the thing is like, I always argue because I've dated girls that are like feminists and like liberals and all this other stuff. And a lot of my friends are still liberals and it's fine, but they don't want to hear that there's another side to the discussion. And I go, just take a step back and just look at what's going on.
Well, because ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, ignorance. You want to know that you're winning the fight. You want to feel like you're winning the fight, but you're not. You're just fucking things up more. You know what I mean? Because now you're pissing off a segment of the population that you're not paying attention to because they're allegedly the enemy. Just like, it's just, you're not. Most of the country is center.
Most purple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's really loud voices on the ends. And both ends are ignoring the middle.
Which is the majority of people.
The majority of people. So when you're going, 83 million people voted for so and so, but yeah, because we had no fucking choice on which, you know what I mean? Like it's this old white guy or this other old white guy, and you're like, fuck, like, do I want to run it back with Trump? Well, that was pretty bad. You know what I mean? So then let's do this other old white dude. And then you're like, fuck, now this is pretty bad. And it looks like they're just going to give us the same two white guys again. You know what I mean?
That's
Can
the
I
impression
make a
I'm
prediction?
Yeah.
I bet you it might be the same matchup from 2016.
Hillary?
Yes.
Well, I don't want that either. I don't want that either. Because that's the thing is they're like, it's going to be the first woman president. I'm like, we can't find one better woman than this chick that has alleged like murder records. You know what I mean? Like,
I love how you preface it.
Yeah. Can we find one that maybe doesn't have all of this controversy around her? Like, that's the thing. Because like, when you really pay attention, because like I lived in New York City, I lived here, I came back here, I went to Raleigh for a year and a half during the pandemic, and I lived a completely different life than all of my friends did because they all stayed in New York. And they're like, "Hey, Paul, what are you doing?" I'm doing fucking comedy right now. That's what I'm doing
in
the
Raleigh.
South, in Raleigh. And they're like, "Oh, everything's still closed up here." I'm like, "That sucks. I'm out here fucking living." You know what I mean? Because the South, a couple months in, they're like, "Listen, do shit outside. And if you want to go inside, wear a mask. If you don't, nobody gave a fuck." You know what I mean?
Right.
It was a different perspective. And then when I left New York, I was like, wow, this is wild because I'm watching my friends live this drastically draconian like lockdown.
Dystopian even.
Yeah. Can't do anything. And I experienced it for the first 2 months of it because I was still in New York. And then when you go south, you're like, wow, this isn't as bad. And it's like, no, this is how the rest of the country is operating. You know what I mean? Like most of other places are like, hey, this isn't as bad as the news is portraying it to be. People are dying, but it's not worth closing everything down. And it's just like, how are two drastically different populations of people having two drastically different experiences? And then you're expecting them to vote for somebody who's going to affect the entire country. You're going to have two different sets of votes. You know what I mean? You're going to have people are going to be like, I'm sick of this shit. And the other guys, this guy's doing a great job. It depends on what you're consuming.
Do you think geographic location has anything to do? I think it has 100% plays a big
huge
part of
because
it.
Just take Scranton, for example, right? Scranton's a downtrodden, poor area. We're middle class. Most everybody here is middle class.
Yeah. Blue collar, middle class.
Yeah. Everybody works. We have some rich people. We don't, there's not a big segment of rich people. But if you pay attention, rich people are on the news being like, yeah, we got to be safe for everybody. They're all fucking leaving New York. So why are they telling us to do one thing and then they're supporting the narrative that New York had But then everybody's like, I'm going to move to Florida. So why is everybody moving to Florida if they support what's going on in New York? Why are they leaving California if they support what's going on in California? Like, why is it they're saying one thing, but they're going down there? You know what I mean?
I wonder.
Yeah. Weird how they want the rules for the poor people, but not for the rich. You know what I mean? So
we'll get weird in the second half of this.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the redneck thing.
Yes.
And the reason won't let it go.
The reason I want to go back to it, because a lot of comedians are found on these sites with portions of their performances, like clips. Mm-hmm. And it allows other audiences that are broader than the people who are at your show to see you. I follow quite a few comedians. I hate fucking TikTok because the Chinese Communist Party owns it. But I've seen some really funny people on there.
Think about this before we get through our whole other thing.
Yeah.
Why is TikTok bad? Because the China? Because they say the Chinese.
No.
But think about it. Facebook, Google, all those guys do the same shit TikTok does.
I have my reasons why I think
you know what I mean? So it's like, TikTok's terrifying. Stealing all your information. So is all of these other platforms.
I know. I did. TikTok at some point really, remember you and I? It really helped us through COVID.
Yeah.
I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world.
Yep.
Until one day we were sitting there doing something. He's showing me
5 hours
2 or 3 videos, and I'm like, it's really funny. Where are those TikTok? I was like, all right, I'll go check this thing out. After like months of him telling me.
Oh, yeah.
Within 24 hours, I needed rehab from this thing.
I found quite a few like really, really talented like traveling comedians who like I look forward to like their clips coming out.
Well,
you know,
there's one guy that I open for all the time to answer your question.
Yeah.
I've worked with him a bunch of times, and you can really see, because during the pandemic, it's this guy, Rocky Dale Davis. During the pandemic, he blew up on the internet. He got big. The Rock was going to produce his Netflix special that fell through, but he got fame through TikTok, Instagram, and videos online.
And then he said redneck and they canceled him.
Well, he was the one that got white trash. They take his video. So if you
wait, he had all this set up.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said white trash.
Yeah, and they didn't deplatform him, but the thing is, those things, they punish you if you get like community strikes against you. So then you'll notice your views and your engagement just trash. So they don't take you off the platform, but they show your shit to less people. So they have that kind of
that's
control.
Like the shadow banning stuff.
Yeah, it's that type
I didn't
of stuff.
realize it had gotten that intense. Like, I mean, there's the obvious ones you can't say. Like, we all know what those are.
Oh, you're going to say them?
Yeah, those are the words that you just say a letter and then the word.
Yeah, you can't. You can't.
There's like the obvious. Yes. Like those, but like white trash, redneck.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
He's from Tennessee,
I'm a
man.
white guy from Tennessee. Okay, like that's not offensive.
No,
nobody cares.
I consider myself white trash.
Yeah.
I'm not offended.
Yeah,
it's a joke. That's the thing.
Exactly.
You're letting a certain segment of people determine what's okay and what's not. If you get a room full of super like progressive liberal people, then there's going to be a lot of censorship.
Have you done gigs where it's like majority of them are there?
What, like liberal people?
Yeah, where it's like, oh man, like it's not. I know it's not a tough room. It's that these people are. They just. They will either
win them over, but sometimes you can tell there'll be a person, their arms are crossed, they're just not having a good time the whole time, and I'm like, I wonder what that dude's deal is. And then at the end of the show, I'd be like, well, I really appreciate. And you're like, cool, I'm kidding. It's not for everybody.
Do you do the same set no matter what, or are you reading a room and adjusting?
No, I'll read the room and adjust, but sometimes I'll lean into it too.
Oh,
like,
really?
It depends on what kind of mood I'm in. If I'm like, if they're dicks, I'll just
woke up and chose violence.
Sometimes I'm just like, fuck you guys. This is funny and you're being uptight, and then I'll yell at them. And usually when you yell at them, some of them will be like, all right, yeah, we're being kind of, our buttholes are a little tight. But, and sometimes I'll just be like, nah, man. And you just have to take that L, but I won't go down without swinging. You know what I mean? I'm just going to take a shot.
Well, there's that famous interaction with, what was it, Bill Burr in Philadelphia?
No, that made him famous.
Yeah.
That made
And he
Bill
just
Burr.
went off.
Yeah, he went off. It's one of my favorite things. But the story about that is they were booing everybody, and it wasn't the whole crowd. That's also the thing you have to know for
small
as a comic.
group in the crowd.
There was a small group in the front, but they were loud, and they were booing every comic off stage before him. So comics, and this is going away too, by the way, is comics have a camaraderie.
this time too, like this was the virus tour with Opie and Anthony, and I think like it wasn't just like some like small comedians. It was like Colin Quinn, I think.
Yeah, it was like huge,
and like
names.
Patrice was there. I think maybe like that level guy that like they're big
booed.
comedians. And they're just getting booed because Philly fucking sucks.
Yeah, well, Philly rules, but they do have an attitude. But that's the thing. Is like sometimes you have to look at the whole of the crowd and be like, oh, there's gonna be some dicks in there, but do you want to fuck up the night for 90% of the crowd because 10% of them are asshats, you know what I mean? Or you have to focus, but it's hard as a comic. But when Bill was defending the other comics. So he goes up and he goes, fuck you guys. And he shit all over them because that's what they needed to happen. But the thing that happened during the pandemic, during Me Too and all this other stuff, comics started turning on each other. So a lot of comics were selling out other comics or trying to get them canceled to try and gain notoriety.
Oh.
So if you're like, yeah, that guy said this shit, and then because it's Shane, it was another comic.
Shane Gillis?
Yeah, Shane, another comic called him out, and that's what's steamrolled that. They always
Wasn't he going to be on Saturday Night Live?
Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, he's crushing it right now.
Yeah,
that was probably the best thing that
ever happened to him. Because if you watch the sketches
Gillian
that he's
Keys?
writing, that
Gillian
never would
Keys
have
is
flew
amazing.
on Saturday Night Live. So it worked out for him. He's bigger now than he probably ever would have. But they would have had him on SNL, and he would have been buried.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you would have never
been
seen the
miserable.
shit. So it would have worked out. It worked out for him, but still, he didn't deserve that.
No.
Another comic just tried to end his career to grow their career, which is like, that shouldn't happen. We're comics. We're all defenders of free speech, allegedly. You know what I mean? So it's like, why are you trying to get each other in trouble? It's because you trying to grow your career by crushing somebody else's. And it's bullshit.
Do you think that that brainwashing has hit those people?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because is it I don't under, so it seems to me that Checkers is outselling chess recently in people's heads, and they're not playing the chess game of life where it's, if I do this, no one can trust me ever again.
Ever.
Like if I shit on this comic, no one will trust me.
Or you'll think you're getting a temporary gain on social media and the internet, but in real life, comics will not interact with you. If you could, they would just be like,
I'm violated.
I'm not going to say shit around you. I'm not going to hang out with you. I'm not going to give you work. And the thing is, in comedy, it's all, most of my work and everything that I ever get is from other comics. It's not because I have a banger video or like any of this other stuff. It's like, other comics recommend you for shit. So if you're alienating yourself from all of these comics, you're fucked. Because it's a big community that's small. So I know who people have tried to do that. You know what I mean? But it's funny because there's examples where they tried to do that, and then somebody would come around and do it to them. so it's
like the snake eating its tail.
It's just like, you don't realize that whatever we say now, eventually 10 years down the road is going to be offensive at the way we're going. So it's like, you have to, if you're going, no, that shit's fucked now, but what you're saying now could be shitty later. So it's like, you have to be conscious as a comic that if you allow them to silence certain shit, how far does that go?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you may disagree with whatever Andrew Tate said, or you may disagree with whatever Rogan said, but they should be allowed to say it. Because it's not, if you can't, this is the thing. If you're going to say wild shit, it's fine. But we're getting away from, they're like, well, that can't be out there because people might listen to them and do wild shit. And it's like, dude, that's been forever.
Yeah.
You can't control what crazy people are going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like blaming video games for mass shooters.
Yeah,
It's
they weren't sane until I said that joke.
Yeah. Oh, my joke is the one they're like, I'm going to go fucking murder. No, it's not that. We got to teach people right and wrong. It's like, we're taking the responsibility out of like parents' hands and schools' hands. You're teaching people how to think for themselves what is right and wrong. But now everybody's like, well, we got to dictate what you hear. And it's like, when you see where that goes, is because it's a power grab. It's not actually because we think it's good for people. It's because if you can control the narrative of what's being said, you control what's being said about you. You know what I mean? If you're in power, you don't want that. You don't want Andrew Tate, because did you notice he's been on the internet for a while
Of years.
saying wild shit, and then he started criticizing the government, and that's when he got.
Mm-hmm.
If you really look at it,
The way I got introduced to Andrew Tate, and I believe that I might have known about him in his like kickboxing.
I knew
career
about it from
earlier.
fighting.
Yeah.
yeah.
the way I knew about Andrew Tate was because very early in the pandemic, he had this whole thing where he's like, you know who doesn't have to wear masks or get checked or anything? He's like, fucking rich people.
Yep.
He's like, I took a plane where they forced me to mask. Blah, blah. He's like, private, nobody touches you. And he goes, and you need to realize that, like, you are not, they are fucking controlling you because they don't have to do it.
Yep.
And I was like, who's this guy spitting truth? And like, he's not even like making it flowery. He's just boom,
No,
boom, boom,
not at
boom,
all.
boom.
Well, the other thing I noticed with him, because like with Andrew Tate, there's 99% of what he says. I'm like, okay, if you look at the factual thing that he is saying, he's right. It's the way he's saying it. It's the fact.
See,
that
but that's the complaint about Trump. That's the same complaint about Trump.
But here's what I noticed. I've seen him on interviews with a lot of women. The big thing for him is misogyny.
Yeah.
I've seen him in a bunch of interviews. Women are involved. He's polite, respectful. They'll kind of jab back and forth a little bit. He did Your Mom's House with Christina P.
Yeah.
And,
They were laughing their asses off.
hysterical.
Yeah.
The only time he's ever been misogynistic or anything in a serious way is if he's on a podcast with 7 strippers.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, because you're a hoe. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the crazy part. It's like, you're mad at him for being misogynistic at people that do sex for a living. It's like, well, what do you think? He's calling them what they are.
Right.
Like, he's not being misogynistic. He's being factual.
Well, it's also weird that you hate men, but the majority of your income comes from what you're doing is from men.
Yeah.
Weird, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like the best example is like, say, it's basically whoever's in charge, like whatever the one person or group of people that decide what's not okay for the internet. They're saying, we can't trust you to think on your own.
Right.
So we're just going to...
Pisses me off.
Big brother has to take care of it.
So we're just going to block it because we're worried that you're too dumb to discern what's not good and what's not, or what's entertainment and what's not.
Yeah.
So we just got to get rid of this because we can't risk you dumb idiot. Because they're basically calling everybody dumb.
Yeah.
They're like, we can't trust you to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
But also,
Well, it's the same thing with COVID. We can't trust you to
Same
be
thing.
healthy, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
We have to tell you what you can and can't do.
like, well, you can't go outside because we know you idiots are going to go outside. You know what I mean?
Start
It's
licking
just,
handrails.
it's like when you look at it that way, it's just like they think we're dumb. So they're treating us like we're dumb.
Right.
The strange thing about all that COVID shit is that everything that they told us to do was the exact wrong thing to do.
Don't go
Like,
out
don't
in
go
the
outside. It's
sunshine.
like, dude, that's where you get your vitamin D.
Yeah.
Like, if you're asymptomatic, go home. Like, if you're with someone who's sick and they're asymptomatic, and you're like, that's where all this happened, was in the homes. It's in the hospitals. It's in the buildings where everyone who had COVID was going, and everyone else there got sick and then transmitted it. Where it's just like, my mom got COVID. She went out and gardened for 3 days. She's like, I feel great.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
it's also like there's a whole rabbit hole we could go down.
Did you ever hear anybody the last 2.5 years go like, hey, eat an apple?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that Rogan was arguing about for the longest time. And everybody was like, if you just took care of yourself, you're probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
Work
then
out.
you're body shaming. Then you're like, all this other stuff. But the wild thing is like, fuck, I thought I had a thought. Where'd it go? Is it that they were pushing everything that cured you, they didn't want you to take.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's just like, they're like, yeah, do what we tell you, but don't try any other shit. But it's funny because, like, for the longest time, it was like, remember the train strike that was going on, the train worker strike.
Last week.
You guys know about that, right?
Yeah.
They were just fighting for more sick days. Not even paid sick days, just unpaid sick days. And that's like, so when COVID was a big thing, they're like, don't go anywhere if you have symptoms. But for everything else, they're like, you better fucking be in work. I don't care how sick you are. So it's like, why is that 2 different things? Because all the other countries, like Japan, crushed it.
Do you know why?
Has a culture of when they're sick, guess what they do? They don't go fucking work. Like, they don't give it to other people.
They also prescribed ivermectin to
Yeah,
everyone.
they also did that.
Yep.
Which is also a recommended treatment for COVID on the CDC website right now.
Well, okay, so we have to clarify that.
Yeah.
I looked back up on that.
It's approved for trials.
Yeah.
Even though they're ignoring the 90 random controlled trials that they've done over the last 2.5 years, it's still in
But
trials.
that's the bullshit thing, is like, now you're recommending it as a possible solution when you were like
Criminalizing people.
for even
Okay.
suggesting techniques.
Can we get into this in a little bit? Because I
Yeah.
want to talk about your comedy. Well, I mean, there's no point.
The second half of this podcast is supposed to be the wilder part. Holy shit!
Yeah, I want to talk about the comedy. So, okay, I want to give people number one. Are you going on tour? Are you on tour?
I'm on tour. I'm always on tour.
So what's that? How does that work for you as a working comic? Because most people are like, look, here's the thing, man. Most comics I run into don't go on tour.
Yeah. No.
So how does that work? Do you have like how does Paul go on tour?
So I mean, define working comics. Do you know that don't go on tour? Because if they're working
They do,
comics,
like,
they
open
go
mics.
on tour.
Okay,
They're not
so let me-
working comics.
Let me rephrase that. I know comics that don't go on tour.
Yeah.
I know people that work at FedEx and then once a month get on stage for
Yeah.
amateur.
Then they're not real
Yeah.
comics then. I mean, I'm not shitting on them in that way. But
No, I
if
don't think you
Everyone's
are.
got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. When I first started, I went once a month, but
But then at a certain point, you
at a
got to
certain
quit
point,
your
you're
job
like, all
and
right, I got to go for
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So, I tour all constantly, and then you have to know that you're going to be poor.
You have to,
That's
you have
all
to
it is.
accept that
Accept it.
fate.
You have to
Yeah.
accept that, and it's not the life for everybody. I've had a lot of relationships fall apart because this is what I do. But yeah, every weekend I'm somewhere. I'm going somewhere, and most of the time I'm making just enough money to keep the lights on. That's about it.
Are you getting booked gigs that you travel to each weekend, or do you ever go like on a?
Yeah, I'll go one-nighters and stuff too.
Yeah.
It depends because I don't have an agent or a manager, so
So you do it all yourself.
I do it all myself. And that's the thing is that also like comedy has been glamorized lately too
Yeah.
because of so you're listening to like Segura and Bert and be like, yeah, I tested a Bugatti or I went on the Porsche track.
You're
and, like,
listening to the ones who got
yeah,
there.
the worker listening. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, there's not many people that let you in on the look of what it's like. Because even Rogan was like, dude, the journey growing up was legit. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's not. It fucking sucks.
Yeah, but he also had that UFC money.
Yeah, Rogan got super lucky, so he
Yeah.
didn't really have to do the hard part.
Yeah, but he worked his
TV
ass off.
He worked his ass off, but he got lucky right from the get, and he'll
Yeah.
even say that. He's like, I got a TV show a couple years in, and then
It was
comedy
news
is so
radio,
much,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comedy is so much easier when you don't have to worry about money. So, but yeah, I'll go, and I do all three things. So I headline, but I'll also go open for somebody else, or I'll go host a show because I'm currently in the phase of just trying to make material and get better at comedy and grow a fan base. So comedy is weird because it's hard until it's not. And then because you get successful and then you get to this next level and you're like, oh, this is easier. You know what I mean? Because then you're touring regularly and you're headlining.
But now people are coming to see you on purpose. It's like I find it hard for people like Bill Burr and those guys to be like, I can find 14,000 people in this place that like me. They'll buy the ticket.
Yeah, well, that's the level they're at. They can come to Wilkes-Barre and people will come. People aren't coming to see me right now. I'm not at that level. No.
But you will be.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, but
We'll come and see you.
Yeah, that's the goal. But yeah, now I have to work my ass off. I book a show, then I have to go on Facebook and be like, please come to my, you know what I mean? And like, I have to come see me. And then you have to buy Facebook ads and like all this other shit. So I produce a lot of my own shows and then I get booked by major comedy clubs. But I'm in this weird in between. So it's like I'll headline some places and then I'll open for some people. And then I'll have to produce my show at like a movie theater or like a bar so that I can work out my 45. You know what I mean? So I can work out whatever my material is. So it's like you'll see me one day where I'll be fucking opening for John Caparulo or like some great comic. I'll be the guy before him. And then you'll see me headlining Bar and Company like the next weekend. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's just that's where I am. And I'm fine with it because I know that I'm going to be be a better comic.
Yeah, but it's a growth. It's like these are the steps that you have to take to get there.
But a lot of people don't talk about that. They always glamorize. They're like, yeah, I'm crushing it. And you're like, no, there's like 10% of comics that are crushing it. And the rest of us are out here struggling.
So how many shows do you do a year now?
I mean, it really
How many
depends.
shows do you headline a year now?
Probably
Best guess.
50-50. So if most weekends I'm doing at least Friday, Saturday. So you figure 52 weekends of the year, I'm probably headlining half that.
Is it only weekends just because they don't really book during the week?
Well, during the week, it's harder. People don't really like, unless you're in like a major city like New York or Chicago or Boston, like during the week is not really an option. So if you're going to like next month I'm in like Indianapolis, Dayton.
Isn't Chappelle in Dayton?
Chappelle is in Dayton.
Okay.
So I'll be going to those clubs. It's the weekend. So they'll have like independent shows that maybe be during the week, but those are the shows that are at the bars and all that stuff where the up and coming comics are working. But most big name comics, if you look at their schedule, unless they're really crushing it, like Bargatze or like Segura, they're doing weekday shows because they have these fan bases that will come out.
Where you can fill up a stadium on a Tuesday.
You could do a Tuesday because you're a destination comic, I call it now, where they're going to see you. But most of the comedy clubs I'm doing, they're just going because there's comedy.
Just in general. It's like me and the wife got to get out of the house.
Yeah. So they're not there because Paul Spratt's headlining. They're there because there's a comedy club in their town and it's a thing to do.
Yeah. They don't know who the band is. They're just going to listen to
they're
music
just going
and drink a beer.
they're going to hear jokes.
How do you like put all that together? Like what's your, I hate to ask a really stupid question. Like what is your process like? Like how do you put a joke together? Do you just like, do you sit down and write? Or do you just like, that's funny, put a note in your phone and like what do you do?
Every comic's different. I write on stage a lot. So what you saw me do
you
at
riff
Zach
it?
show, I'll riff it.
Oh,
so I'll have a
that was the riff?
That was a riff. Yeah. So I'll have a general.
That's
so
not dangerous at all.
It's super dangerous because I'll say some wild shit. Were you at the show where the lady told me there was female garbage people?
Yes.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Because I was arguing that I was like, what was the joke I was trying to do? Oh, I was trying to say.
I can't remember your whole fucking set, man.
I was trying to say that there's certain names they changed.
Yeah.
So like garbage men is still garbage men. They don't say sanitation expert.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because women don't do it.
Yeah.
And then some lady in the crowd was like, my whole crew is women.
Her whole company is like a women-owned
Yeah, and I was like, bullshit.
sanitation.
Yeah, and me and Dan are next to each other, and all you hear is this. Ugh.
So I recently watched the video back of that, and I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, I got to Google that and see if it's real. But that's what I'll do is I'll have a funny idea.
Yeah.
And then I'll riff it, and then I'll see what works, and then you refine it through that.
Do you tape yourself doing it?
Every time. Everything.
Audio or video or both?
Both.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I used to do just audio all the time, but with TikTok and all that stuff, I have a funny crowd interaction or something. I can put that on the internet. So I tape everything now.
Do you like crowd work?
I do, but ever since I quit drinking, I don't feel like I'm as good at it as I was before.
Why?
I don't know. There's something about having a couple beers.
And just loose.
And
Is that
just
liquid
loose.
courage shit where you're like, I could give a fuck about you right now?
And it's something about like having, a few beers in you just gets that fuck it vibe back out where you're like, now I'm like sober in my brain. I'm like, you probably shouldn't say that. And
no, you should.
And then when you have a couple beers, you're like, fuck it, I'll say it. And then it usually leads to interesting stuff. But yeah, quitting drinking really affected.
When did you quit
comedy.
drinking?
148 days.
Oh, you're counting.
Sober. Yeah, because I'm gonna go back, I think.
You're gonna go back?
I can't. I miss it a lot. And it's just like, so I'm struggling, but I want to stick to it for a while and do comedy without it.
I didn't miss the hang. The only thing, I love drinking. I just
don't
miss the hangovers.
or feeling like shit, but man, do I miss the fun.
I heard drip bars are good for hangovers.
Yeah, buddy.
He's opening up a drip bar.
Oh, nice. Scranton that would crush here, I think. Well, I mean, how much would it cost would be the real question.
How bad do you want to feel better?
Yeah, that's true too.
It depends on what you get, but anywhere from like $100 to like $180.
Oh, that's not going to crush here.
It will. It will.
Can you imagine spending $100 drinking and the next day you have to pay the same amount of money to feel better?
You don't need hundreds. You need just the few few ones whose daddy can pay for it. That's all you need.
That's true.
I take so if you ever there's magnesium glycinate, I think I take. It helps with like the nerves.
Yeah.
So if you take, it's like taking a Xanax, but it's all natural. So you have to take that. And if you want, there's this stuff called kava.
Oh my God.
It's a root from Fiji.
It's terrible.
It tastes like dirt.
Yeah.
But 20 minutes later, you're like, I really don't give a fuck.
I feel great.
Yeah. I just feel really, really good about this.
Yeah. No,
What made you quit?
I got a DUI.
Oh, so the government
It's a
got you.
government recommended break from drinking.
What was your infraction?
I was
Were you swerving?
I was double legal limit. I didn't use my turn signal, which is bullshit. Who am I playing footsie?
Probably me.
Yeah, I didn't use my turn signal.
They got you for that?
Yeah. So when they pulled me over, they were like, you were driving erratically. And I was like, I don't think so. And then they made me do all the things. They put me in the car. They put me in the drunk tank. They made me take blood. They give them blood. And then when I got the report, they're like, yeah, he didn't use his turn signal to change lanes. And that's why we pulled him over. I was like,
To change lanes?
mm-hmm. And I was like, fuck you guys.
What town was this in?
Allentown.
Oh, they're pricks down there.
Yeah, I got got by the state police.
Oh, they don't fuck around.
Yeah, they don't mess around.
Yeah.
They're out there doing numbers.
So were you on the highway?
I was on the not the highway, but going towards it. I was coming back here.
Twice the legal limit?
Twice the legal limit.
Just so you know, twice the legal limit for drinkers really isn't drunk.
I was fine. I was
Yeah.
joking with
What's
the
that, like
cops.
4 beers?
I
Yeah.
don't even know. Yeah, it was like a
Yeah, it's about 4.
it was a 0.8 something. I don't know. It was like
Oh, no. Yeah. The legal limit's like 0.4 now or something. It's like 2 beers.
0.08 or something like
It's
that.
like 2 beers.
0.186.
That's 2
or something
beers.
like that.
Did I ever tell you about the time that I went up to the 911 command center and got drunk to train
I
the
brought my
police?
wife up for that.
Yeah, we went up there and
You can
drank
do
to
that.
train
How
the
did I not
police
get
on
this
how to
job?
sobriety test.
Oh,
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I bet.
Awesome.
That's what they do. They go up there and you actually go up there. They're like, do you have a designated driver? Like, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Start drinking.
Let's go.
Yeah, and they
'Cause they
track
wanna
the
do
whole
the-
thing.
Yeah.
They want to show the
How it
cadets how
works?
to do it. Yeah.
Oh, because
Yeah.
like I want the dash cam video because I was making the cops laugh.
You could FOIA it.
And I was like, dude, I think I'm getting off. I thought I had a beef, right? Because I was like,
I'm
making a
really
bla-
funny.
Yeah, because they took me out of the car immediately. I was like, I'm fucked, right? Because
Yeah.
I probably
As soon as they
smelled like
pull you
booze.
out,
yeah,
it's
you're
over.
done. And he was like, we got to do some sobriety exercises. I was like, dude, I got a bad knee. Like my balance is not great. Like this isn't fair. I'm not going to pass these tests.
Right.
And then he was like, we got to do them anyways, but we'll take it into consideration. And I immediately like, no, you won't. And he was like, yeah, we will. I'm like, you guys are full of shit. And I like did the line. I was like, nailed it. And the guys laughed and he's like, it was pretty good. And he was like, now I just need you to stand on one foot for 30 seconds and count to 30. And I was like, can you guys do that? Right. Like, show me you guys.
Show me you guys can do this before I do that.
Say the alphabet
Yeah,
backwards.
like stand
I
on
can't.
one foot and do it right now. And he was like, we don't have to do it. You have to do it. And I'm like, that means you can't do it. And then, and I was like, fine. I made it to 17 seconds before I had to put my foot down. And I was like, that's pretty fucking good. And the guys were like, yeah. And then they put the handcuffs on. I was like, oh, I thought I was doing so good. But yeah.
All right. So where are you at coming up so people know what's going on before
I'm
we jump
actually
over into Crazy Town?
Recording my special the same place Zach did.
Are you really?
So I'm doing it at Carl Hall, October 28th. So Friday of Halloween weekend. I'm recording it there. It's me, Tyler Rothrock, and Mike Peters. And then I'm also doing the audio version for Helium October 26th in Philadelphia.
So wait, what does that mean? You're doing 2 shows?
I
that you're
am.
recording?
So, how do I word this without? So the Helium wants me to record for they have a record company
Okay.
that's strictly comedy. It's Helium Records. So I was like, I want to do a new album. They're like, yeah, we would love to. They gave me a date. And I go, hey, I want to film it too. But Helium's starting their own video company that's kind of like
Obviously.
Dry Bar and all
Yeah.
that other stuff. So they're like, with the branding and us starting a new company, we're not sure if we want you to film it. We'll get back to you. And then I had to wait a while. And then they're like, like all the head honchos were like, nah, you can't film it. So we're just doing audio October 26th. And then I'm filming it October 28th.
Is that a contract violation or anything? Because you're going to have both versions out there.
No, I was like, if
What
you
a
guys won't
weird
let me
thing.
film it. I'm
Yeah,
just
why
gonna
didn't they
do
just
it
take
myself.
advantage and take the film side?
You
too?
would think, but I don't know. They know the business better than I do, apparently.
So
I
they
was like-
say.
I was like, yeah, whatever you guys want to do, I'll just film it 2 days later. It'll be the same jokes. So, but
But if it all goes to shit, you'll have the other one.
I'll have
Exactly.
double it up. But if the video one goes to shit, then I'm fucked. No,
All right. So that's October 28th.
October.
How many
28th,
shows?
7 and 9, just like Zach did. So 7 p.m., 9 p.m. Tickets are only $10. So don't tell me it's too expensive.
In this economy?
In this economy. So yeah, $10.
You could take 15 friends to go see his comedy or come to my new drip bar for one treatment.
Yeah, there you go. See, to factor it in. Yeah. So yeah, tickets are on iampaulspratt.com.
Oh, yeah. Let's do all this. So
Or
where are the
call
tickets?
iampaulspratt.com. That's my website.
iampaulspratt.com.
Yeah.
That's
Some motherfucker already had paulspratt.com. I was like, what? So
Well, he
I
was
had to
looking
do
for kids.
iampaulspratt.com.
and then you Eventbrite.
Eventbrite, it's all on there. You can search my name, all that other stuff. It's on there.
What about your social handles?
At Paul Spratt on everything. Super easy.
I'm gonna go
I got it
follow you right
all
now.
on social media, but that one dickhead had the fucking website.
So it's I am Paul Spratt.
yeah. On
IAMPAULSPRATT.
you got it.
.com.
.com. That's my website. And then I'm at Paul Spratt on all the social medias. It's super easy.
Did you find him?
Come see me. And
No.
But
I am Paul.
you must
I
have
got
said
shadow
fucking
banned
redneck.
already. I
You
barely
got canceled already, man.
I barely post
let's
anything
see.
yet. I was getting ready to. I was getting geared
Was I
up.
not supposed to be live streaming this?
Ah, shit. We would have got taken down already.
I
if we were live
am
streaming.
Paul Spratt.
.com. That's my website. Paul
What's your
Spratt.
Instagram?
Is he even listening to this podcast?
No.
P-A-I.
Yeah, it's just my name, Paul Spratt.
Oh, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, the crown doesn't make you smart, man.
I swear to God.
All right, we're gonna hop out of here. Hey, man, thanks for coming here.
Thanks for
we're
having
gonna,
me.
We're gonna hop
This is a
over
good
to
time.
the crazy town. And Dan, you want to say it?
What a week.
What happened with Neil Peart?
Something about like sometimes drummers overcomplicated. I was like, yeah, you know who was really overrated was Neil Peart.
You've got me so fucking flustered over here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like shut all this stuff down and like get so we kind of get moving here, and all I can think about is how I want to fucking destroy you.